Hi, and welcome back to Point Served. My name is Vondi. I'm the lead pastor here at Cross Point Church in Beckley, West Virginia, and we want to do our very best to help you be a better leader wherever you find yourself, whether it's in the marketplace, in sacred service, wherever it may be. We at Cross Point Church desire to help you. And today we're going to talk about the Charlie Alt effect. Charlie Alt was a man that I grew up knowing. We lived in Wyoming County, West Virginia, between Oceana and Baileysville on a little farm. Charlie was a school teacher at Baileysville High School. And Charlie rented a little piece of property on my parents' farm, and he lived there through the school year and taught school. And Charlie was a unique person. When I first got to know Charlie, he was the first adult that ever caught the school bus with me. He was a man who really tried his best to make a mark in the world where he was. Not only did he teach school, he was on the radio in Pineville, and he did a number of things. But one of the things that Charlie did, and there were many, that really stuck with me, is that Charlie, when he moved to that part of Wyoming County, he had family in another part of the state, but he lived in a camper for a year. And I'll never forget, he asked my dad, he said the camper was a little cramped, and he wondered if it would be all right if he brought in something a little bit bigger. And my dad said yes, that would be fine. Well, what Charlie did was he found a frame that a small trailer had occupied, and it had burned, but the frame was still good. And so Charlie brought that frame in, and he began to build an 8.5 by 30, what we would call today, tiny home. But in 1978, it was not viewed that way at all. It was viewed as, what's he doing? What's he trying to accomplish? And Charlie was very creative. He put an upstairs in it. It was a neat little house that he built on that frame. And when you begin to think about people like that, and people would drive by and see what he was doing and began to wonder what was happening, tiny homes were not anything that people talked about in those days. Yet, Charlie saw something. Charlie saw what something could become. And because of that, I began to process people like Charlie and what makes them see something that maybe other people are wondering, why are you doing this? What's going on? Yes, Charlie Alt was unique. He could see things with his mind that you and I may not have been able to see. When he looked at that frame that a trailer sat on, he saw a tiny home that he could build on top of that. He saw something that he could make into a nice place to live when other people would just see a burned out frame. Yet Charlie recognized that. Charlie was a man who was able to see possibility. What about you? When you look at a frame, do you see what might be? Do you have a unique ability about yourself to see something different? Do you see something that maybe other people driving by would never see with that particular piece of equipment? Yet Charlie saw possibility. And not only did he see possibility, Charlie was able inside of himself to say, well, let's try. Let's try. Charlie really didn't care about what other people thought about him. Charlie was a man who marched to his own drum. I think that's what made him unique, but it also gave him the flexibility to see things a little bit differently than what other people see them. And I wonder how many times in my life have I allowed maybe what other people would think to keep me from seeing possibility. What other people would process, what other people would walk through, have I allowed them to keep me from recognizing something out there that now, 40 years later, there's a complete TV channel for how they're building tiny homes and what they're doing. And this man saw this in 1977. It's amazing how the people around us that are the trendsetters, the ones that can see beyond what is right there at that moment, while they take the arrows of people saying, "Why are you doing that?" But they take the arrows because they're willing to try. They're willing to give it a shot. They're willing to say, I see something like this that maybe I can try. When you look at the place where you are serving today, where you're working, the place that you're leading, do you see possibilities or only problems? Do you see possibilities or only struggles? Have you gotten to the place in your leadership that it's only the negative that you recognize? Well, I'll guarantee you Charlie could see all kinds of negatives to what he was going to do. Yet he was unique enough in his thinking to see beyond the negative to the possibility. And he was willing to try. He was willing to put a saw and some wood and a hammer and a nail together to try something to improve where he lived, to improve the life that he had. And you see, when it comes to leadership, all that we're trying to do is to improve where we are. We're trying to improve and have things a little bit better than maybe what they are right now. But if we will never envision what could be, if we will never see the possibilities, we won't ever take ourselves from where we are, and we'll stay exactly in the same place that we find ourselves. Today, in your place, take 5 minutes, get alone by yourself, and begin to process the possibilities. And if you take nothing more out of this moment today than this, have a willingness to try. Have a willingness to try. A willingness that says, I may not know all the avenues and everywhere it's going to go, but I can take something that maybe nobody sees the possibility in, and I can invest a little bit and turn a burned out frame into a tiny home. What can you do today if you'll just see the possibilities and then be willing to try? It might be unique. It might take you to unique places. But what I can tell you is you will maybe be decades ahead of everybody else if you've got a willingness to try. Thank you so much for tuning in to Point Serve today. We would love to hear from you. We've got an email address, pointserve@beckleycrosspoint.org. Would love to hear from you. Or also on the chat areas when you see this on the various platforms that we put it on today. This one's a little shorter than what you're used to, yet at the same time, I want to give you some time to have a willingness to try. My name's Vondi. I'm the lead pastor at Cross Point Church in Beckley, West Virginia. I want you to know that our chief production engineer is Mike Smith, and he is the guy that puts all of this together, and we're very thankful for what he does. Sandy Harper is involved with makeup. She doesn't do a really good job because she doesn't have a whole lot to work with, but she does that for us as well. Have a great rest of the day and have a willingness to try. This is Point Serve from Cross Point Church, Beckley, West Virginia.